same speed over time, from 60 to 80. That's why that is something that is pertinent to the group, young, old, middle, old. We tend to assume, if we take the perspective of theory of a conventional developmental psychologist, we just say, look, aging-related decline is from 0 to 100, let's say, the person starts to decline, say from 30. Your brain isn't that quick to solve mathematical puzzles or block puzzles and all that, right? Not all of these decline at the same speed, right? And the same manner. Same thing for illnesses, dementia, the decline in abilities, right? How about even other physical illnesses like stroke, the rehabilitative potential, the improvement in function, right? So all these vary over time. Those are important because these are, right? This means different experiences for the individual. Personal. Thank you. Okay, let's come back to the other, under cross-sectional, the cons. So that's one con. Back to this table. Wait. Everybody answer already, I think everybody. Thank you. So this table, the con. Any other con of cross-section? Before longitudinal. That's the main con, yes? Okay, open up to the rest of the class. Any other con you can think of? Let's try to exhaust the list. Any other weaknesses of cross-sectional?
There's a compound in individual differences.
Compound of individual differences. Okay, can you elaborate? Maybe use an example. Yeah. Right. Individuals will have, yeah, sure, but that for cross-sectional confounding effect with individual differences. Okay, that's possibly. But I thought, as now we know in HP 1100, we will have many of such individuals, all with different individual differences. We could actually partial that out. That is, what we call it. We could just select them by random random sampling, and then if it's an experimental design, assign them randomly, what we call random assignment groups. That will solve it. Anybody? Okay, so this list actually seems right. The pros of cross-sectional, known in the literature are mainly this one, less costly, avoid retest confirm, and so the other three possibly, but maybe not, depending on how the research is actually carried out. And this obviously is the main one for cross-sectional. Right? It's difficult, so the exercise that I'd like you to go through in your own mind is how do you articulate and express something like that? Right? To say, look, we need to go beyond cross-sectional to longitudinal because we cannot investigate aging-related effects. What really is aging-related effects? Right? You need to hopefully be able to articulate that. Alright, so now let's go to longitudinal. Right? What are the pros of longitudinal? Alright, let's go. Pros of longitudinal, this table. Longitudinal. Just list it. Just give me one. Okay, that means this is a con, so the longitudinal takes care of it. Okay, can. Thank you. I'll find another one. This group, any other pros? Effects over time. Isn't that the opposite of? Is there opposite of one of these? Isn't it this? Is it this? Basically, age. You said aging related, right? Yes. Aging related effects. Aging with an ing there means time, right? Right. So isn't it whether or not it's okay? If it's intrapersonal, then that is due to this. Intrapersonal variation due to time. So it's actually still this. Okay, 10. Okay, let's open this for the class. Is there anyone here you could find any other pro or strength of a longitudinal piece? Longitudinal. Yep, that is the main one. We can what we call investigate intrapersonal variations due to time, which in cross-sectional research cannot do. Okay, I can even say, look at the cross-sectional, the one side circle, low attrition. So the strength is high. Would that solve the problem? Longitudinal. In fact, it's the opposite. The con of longitudinal is high attrition. Right? Okay. Same thing. Cross-sectional has a strength of less cost. These are longitudinal more expensive. Right? Avoid confound or retest. Right? That means, well, would a longitudinal have a weakness or retest problem? Yes. Okay. So now it seems like anyone else with strength of longitudinal? Hands up. Anyway, time for you to contribute. Yes. Strength of one strength of longitudinal study is a smaller. Okay, yes, possibly. I won't say always the case, depending. Right, but smaller sample size to begin with, when they attrit or fall out, then that is 0. So people attrit for various reasons, right? And possibly smaller sample or smaller number of unique participants, but there is a caveat there, right? Yes. Okay, cause effect investigations. Yes, that's right. We could not be determined ethically or practically in a experimental cross-sectional setting. Maybe examined, right? Yes, those are possibly the longitudinal. Right, good. Now, let's open up this question for the class. Anybody who could think of the reason, you just shout it out. What are the reasons why people fall out? A treat from a longitudinal study. Yeah. Anybody? Yeah. They die. Yes. Yep. Any other? That's actually the most common. They actually die. Either due to natural causes or not. So natural causes include illness. Often if you study patients, obviously they may die. Other reasons for attrition? Move away, okay, from saying one place to another, cannot contact them. Right? That's true. That is true for all longitudinal research, not just for aging. Okay. Any other reasons you can think of why people attrit from an aging study longitudinal research?
They become incapacitated as they age.
Yeah, health is become less healthy. Okay.
Maybe at a certain time point they can be like
Alright, so deterioration, okay, over time. Physical, cognitive, functional deterioration, such that it's not feasible to even participate, right, in subsequent trials. Yes? That's a very useful point. Right? Any other reasons? So we have death, we have functional decline. Lack of interest, okay, we elaborate that. Okay. They may get bored, right? Sure. I can imagine any longitudinal research will suffer from that. But how is that lack of interest different in aging? What do you think? So these are older people we're dealing with. Okay. Responsibilities. Okay. Sure. Well, I'm imagining any other person will also have responsibilities. How are they different? Think for a minute here. What is so unique about interest level or kinds of interest when it comes to older people? Such that many of them or more of them will fall out from a longitudinal study than a study that involves younger people. Yes, okay.
Can't use communicative devices like handphone. Maybe they don't check their email because they don't have email.
And the research requires that.
Yeah.
research, like using quadrics to take data, right?
Like, maybe they can't even be contacted because they can't get the phone.
Right. So that's functional decline. I used to be able to hear. Now 2 years later, I cannot hear anymore. Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. The term for that is called digital divide. Okay? So as people age, this divide grows. There's already a divide between those who have and those who don't have the technology, those who know how to use and don't know how to use. Right? We have a chapter on gerontechnology that will cover this. But as time goes and as a person becomes older, this divide grows. That means older people are less in tune or become less in touch with the latest technologies. Right? With the latest technology. So for instance, people who used to be, let's say, people who used to, let's say, social media, Twitter, right? Twitter came first, so you have a generation who went for it, right? Then came, which one? Which is the next social media that came about? Okay, Facebook and Twitter, which one came first? Facebook, right? Okay, so you have one group. Then after that, Twitter. After that, what happens? Which are the other? Instagram. After that? How about WhatsApp? Right, then after that, you have the other ones, right? So you find that, right, with the disruption and now with the pandemic, there's explosion, right, in the use of social media. But this explosion happens to certain group of people, right? Not others. Isn't it? Right? That's the digital divide we're talking about. So now we start to see certain platforms, certain social media platforms, right, are more used by people of a certain age. Age being important. Of course, there are other things, not just age. So for instance, you find Twitter and Facebook, actually the middle adult people, middle age. Right? Twitter perhaps even older than that. Okay. So if you move down the list to the most recent, say Telegram, TikTok, right? You don't see that anymore. Right? So same thing. Do you see, well, people in their 20s, well, maybe many of you in their 20s actually use Twitter and Facebook, both of them. Right, so we'll talk more about this in gerontechnology. Yeah? That's a good point from there. Okay, any others? Yes?
Can also be the executive part when you just go on, when you see a service.
Okay, sorry, I didn't get it.
Could also be the executive part, like we discussed earlier, when you see a service, like not working.
Yes, the executive kicking in from the shades and releases stage of cognition theory. Right? I don't want to waste time anymore. I participate in research good enough. Right? Thank you. Yes, I think you raised your hand. Say the same thing? Okay, great mind things about it. Okay. Others? Any other point? Okay, that's that. We'll move on from here. Okay. Okay, I think we have covered all these. The threats to longitudinal design of the weaknesses, attrition, retest, missingness, right? And planned missingness. Key threats to the validity of. Okay, actually the fourth one, planned missingness isn't a threat. I should actually place it under a potential solution to the missingness. So what is missingness? Missingness is people are treat, right? So they don't give values. They don't give you your test result. Or as their functional ability declines over time, they can give you data for certain tests or certain functions, but not others. So you have missing values, right? You know that statistically that will be a problem, right? Missing value. The textbook will tell you there are 3 types of missing conditions statistically. But go read out of those. Right? Missing completely at random, missing at random, and missing not at random. These are 3 known types of missingness. Each of these to be dealt with differently in statistical fashion. I won't go into that. I will go into that in methodological part. Okay. So planned missingness is one way statisticians and researchers use, right, to take care of missing values statistically. by design. That means to say that they will plan for missing at certain time point from certain people on certain instruments, on certain inventories, right? Expecting missingness to happen, right? And when that occurs, then obviously they have a priori or planned ways to deal with the missing, right? One way you can say, one way that is common is to have an expectation on probability of missingness. Say the missingness in 2 years, missing will be 50%. In 3 years, missing will be 75%. Let's say for this question or for that question. So I take this expectation and factor it into whatever equation or whatever algorithm I want the data to go through. And that's the idea of planning. Okay, let's move on. Okay, right. In the textbook, there are 3 main ways to that geropsychological research is being done now. One is called meta-analysis. You may have heard of this. Essentially, this one pulls data from published literature, that means journal articles. So which usually report means, standard deviations, T-scores, right, F-scores, all those. Pull all of them together and find a combined effect size. Combined, and that's called meta-analysis. All right. Why do we do this? That's because we know that aging experiences happen differently in different places, right? We say there's cultural difference. So in Western world and Eastern world, the experience of aging is different. Say, notice different. Say experiences of discrimination at workplace, called ageism, right? Say inability to access healthcare, right? So these kind of phenomena happen everywhere, but in a different way, experienced subjectively differently by different people at different places. A meta-analysis allows different researchers to do their research, to publish their research, and then to kind of take a bit from here, right? Take your reported statistics in your journal article, put them all together and calculate the combined score. That's meta. Now, a mega analysis, which is otherwise known as an individual patient, healthcare setting or individual participants, meta-analysis essentially goes one step above the normal, beyond the normal meta-analysis by requesting raw data from individual researchers who publish them. So instead of just taking a journal article, take this journal article, take this journal article, see what is available there, put together. I actually write an email to you or call you on, Dr. So-and-so, Professor So-and-so, can I have the raw data? So, well, that's actually a bit more cumbersome. So you have data coming to you as a researcher in different formats. Excel, SPSS, Stata, whatever. Okay? Written in different way, having different configurations. Okay? And using those, well, you are supposed to then run your analysis, which, well, that is known to help reduce type 1 error. Alright, false positives. So that goes one step further in sort of trying to be accurate. Now, the next one to help make research data even more accurate and this time plus transparent, such that it could be reproduced by researchers, other researchers, is what we call harmonization of data. So data harmonization goes beyond mega analysis. So on top of just requesting raw data harmonization actually creates new variables, either beforehand, before research is conducted, or after research conducted and published. Create new variables, of which are coded in the same or very similar fashion, according to some coding protocol. What do I mean by coding? Coding means if you give a questionnaire, right, to what extent do you experience this? Agree, disagree, strongly disagree, right? So agree is 1, disagree is 0. That's coding. So coded in the same way, or coded in a similar way, or following a certain coding protocol. Right? So it's almost like saying that data harmonization is kind of almost doing a very big scale research on multi-sites, multinational impact. The same question. Right? If this is done beforehand, it is called prospective or a priori data harmonization. This could also be done retrospectively. That means research has been conducted, right? We create new variables. That means there must be some way of which to transform collected data into a configuration of that new variable, right? Such that now sort of has the same, you can say, data dictionary. So that's really the latest trend in geropsychology. Questions? Okay, let's move on. Okay, we are now in chapter 3. Okay. This part will be quite fast because many of these things you could read and are not so technical. Okay. So we know that there are 3 types of demographic shifts, right, that gave rise to the phenomenon here. But people are experiencing, right, more chronic degenerative conditions, such as dementia, right, and stroke, rather than acute problems such as coronavirus. That's an acute one, right? Of course, people are living longer. With living longer means, right, longer years of healthy life or longer years of not so healthy. Right? With longer expectancy, life expectancy does it mean longer years of happy and high quality of life, or not so high quality of life towards the end. And falling birth rate, because its total fertility rate is on the decline in many developed countries and even developing. So that's one trend. Those are 3 demographic shifts that are shaping the aging phenomenon. In Singapore, we used to think 5 years ago, 2015, 1 in 8. But when I started to conceptualize my thesis, right, 1 in 8 Singaporeans will become 65 or older. Okay? By 2030, right, however, the population now is 1 in 4. In 2030, so what we are saying now is, from now we look towards 2030, so in about 9 years to come, the calculation is a quarter of Singapore residents are going to be 65 and above. Okay. Demographic shift once again, comparing different Singapore with East Asian countries and OECD societies. Right? Singapore being the orange line, right? So you find that our population age 65 above is increasing, and we are kind of closing there. We are approaching that kind of levels, that kind of percentages on the y-axis, right? That other East Asian countries which have gone before us, such as Japan, Hong Kong, right, are going towards. So at some point, the orange line, which is Singapore, will cut the other 2 lines. That means we are, at that point, we are aging at the same rate, same speed, right, as these other East Asian nations, and also OECD nations. Okay. Population, citizen population by age, well, you can see over time, until 2015, the blue is below 25 years, the orange is 25 to 64, or what we call economically active age. Right. So yes, the economically active age is increasing, right, but not at that high rate. Here, nursing home beds for fast aging Singapore. So you look at the 2010 or 2010 point. That's where the yellow and the grey lines intersect. What does that mean? The yellow line, resident elderly population 65 years or older. Now, that's the yellow line. So that has increased, right? The grey line, nursing home beds per 1,000 resident elderly 65 years or older. So you find the resident bed, per capita nursing home resident beds was declining, right? Somewhat till from 2000 to 2010 and declining more sharply till 2015. Right. Then only it picked up. These are the statistics given. That is because somewhere in 2011, the government, the Ministry of Health made a commitment, right, that they will double the nursing home beds by 2020, which they did. Alright. However, the grey line is below the yellow. That's the problem here. We don't have enough nursing home beds for the people aged 65 and above. The question then is, will everyone with age 65 and above require a nursing home bed? If if the answer is no, then to what extent? That becomes a question. Another trend that's shaping the aging phenomenon is the concept of health change. Right? We find that, right, in the past, health is the absence of disease. Then, right, in 1948, the WHO stated that health is a state of complete well-being, so social, mental, physical. By 2011, right, the understanding of health is one's ability to adapt to difficulties and challenges. So notice how it moves from disease, whether absence, to well-being, right, to then adaptation. Right? In 2016, the domains that are being that pertain to the 2011 understanding of health are being developed. So social participation, mental functioning, and so on, all these are being developed on what we call operational definitions of the 2011 understanding of health. Right? So what is health? What is healthy? What is successful aging? What is healthy aging? The meaning changes because concept of health changes over time. Alright. What is health? This one is just an expansion of the earlier slide. Here we go. The age dependency ratio, that means people, right, who are above 65, people who are younger than 15, is that right? Yes, 15, are thought to be dependent on people who are between 15 to 64, economically or financially, so to speak. Right? So you can see that we now have an overall, Singapore has an overall age dependency ratio that has decreased because of low birth rate. Okay? And then, if this continues to drop, then it will soon become one person economically active supporting two. Right? We hope that not to happen. So the good news is towards the 2016, 2017, 2018, there's some increase. If that trend continues, then Singapore is not so dangerous. It's not so dangerous yet. The family dynamics, you know that, delayed childbearing, smaller family sizes. There's a rise in what we call the sandwich generation in Singapore. Now, what is the sandwich generation? The sandwich generation are people who are supporting older people, parents, and children. Make a guess. What is this number here? In Asia, particularly in these countries, Taiwan, South Korea, Singapore, Japan, Hong Kong, China, right? In this, actually in Singapore, Hong Kong, and China, right? What do you think is the percentage of sandwich population? People who are sandwiched between the elders and the young. Make a guess. Okay, look at the percentage column there. Prevalence of sandwich generation in working age population. So Australia is not in Asia. Take out Australia, right? The rest of it. If you kind of average all that out, what is the number you sort of get? Minus Australia. So 37, 27, 6, 26, 18, 19. One in five in Asia are now in this class called a sandwich class. Okay? Right, these statistics you can read on your own when I give you the slides. Right, essentially people are spending more time and income on care. Right? Those are the statistics. The question is, for research and for advocacy, could this sandwich generation afford to care financially, in terms of time and other resources? So this is a study done where people are asked to rate either we are struggling to cope, we are coping okay, or we are coping well. Okay, and you could see, just compare the countries. Singapore is count from bottom to third one from bottom. Singapore has 21% says we are struggling to cope, 56% say we are coping, and 23% say we are coping well. Alright, so these are trends that are emerging that impact policy in Asia. Right. There is a study done that asks this question: why do China and Hong Kong caregivers spend a greater proportion of income on their parents as compared to their Asian counterparts? So the second group of about 11 to 25%, right, or 11 to 25% of their income, right, of these respondents are spent on their parents. That's what we're saying. So China, there are 52% of the respondents who reported that they spent 11 to 25% of their income, right, on their aging or aged. Okay. Followed by 49 is Hong Kong. So 49% of the Hong Kong respondents actually say that they spend 11 to 25% of their income on their parents. But the rest of Asia, only 39% says they spend 11 to 25% of their income on their parents. Will caregiving costs peak? Will it reach a certain highest point and then not rise anymore? Right, so these are the online articles. When you Google, you might see some of these reports. Right. So this is a question that we could think about in our reflective journals. Right. What are the problems caused by all those above phenomena that I discussed? Demographic shifts, the health concept changes, and so on. Right? How are all these above? What problems or issues are actually caused by, or can possibly be caused by, those above trends? Right? Four main areas are covered in the textbook: health, education, work, and family. Right? I've covered essentially those. For the Singapore situation, the textbook covers the US. Right? If you read the textbook, you realize there are sections just devoted to healthcare policy, education policy, family policy, work, and retirement policy. So the question that we want to ask as we go along this entire HP 3303 is, first of all, what issues do we expect to happen in each of these areas? Health, education, work, family, right, due to the aging phenomenon. Right? Could we identify not two, maybe one, two or more policies or programs that can address these issues better? So this is something for us to think about. I want to ask you to discuss, but something to think about, to reflect about possibly in your journal, your reflective journal. Okay, I think that's my last slide. Okay, so that was my last slide. There will be less and less me talking and more of you doing the talk in the following weeks, especially when we start the flipped classroom sessions in week 3. Right? However, I don't know the exact enrollment yet, so I can only say, look, for next week, prepare by reading those two chapters, 4 and 7. Right? You can start to form your teams. I can say right now it's about 4 to 5 people. You start to form your team and start focusing on what topic you like to do, right, on the project. Those topics will be any of those topics in this 13-week course. Okay, and you can now, after today, you would have a lot of material to reflect on. So you possibly could start writing your journal already. I mean, a journal is supposed to be written as you go along, not one shot. If you're going to do it one shot, also can, then there will be a lot of things to reflect on, right? I require if I'm not wrong, 400 to 600 or 500, right, journal piece. But if that's just rambling, then you won't get a very good grade, right? Just be up here and there. You want to synthesize, so I encourage you to start thinking and continue to think along as we go along with this course, right? We have the basic building blocks today and tomorrow. So that's what you can do from now. Next week, what you expect is a much shorter lecture. We won't have, we will just in fact cover the 2 chapters. Right? I'll give you more information on the flipped classroom. Okay, I'm thinking now perhaps we will have a series of in-class debates on different topics. Right? I'll see how to organize it. Alright? But more information on that first, I need to know the total number and then I'll see how many teams. Right? And then your next deadline for submission, it will be week 4 for your first entry of the reflexive journal. That's the first one. Week 4, today is week 1, right? So we have 3 more weeks to go. Okay? So better do early because you have less assignment to hand up. If you go on the term, you have more weeks to hand up. Alright? So if no questions, any last questions? No questions, thank you. I'll see you next week.
Yeah.